everybody, what's going on? And welcome to Guns N' Roses Central. And today we're talking about one of the songs off Chinese Democracy. And it's actually one of the oldest songs on Chinese Democracy. And the song we're talking about is This I Love. So this one was written by Axl Rose. So Axl actually did an interview. He did several interviews in 1993 where he gave some clues as to what the next Guns N' Roses record of original material may sound like, and he even talked about the name of the song. So he said, I wrote and recorded a new love song that I want on the next record called This I Love. That's the heaviest thing I've ever done. So he also told Raw Magazine in 1993 that talking about the next record, Slash has been working with a lot of riffs, and I've been working out where my head's at about things. I'd like the next record to go to farther extremes. If I'm expressing anger, I'd like to take that farther. If I'm expressing happiness and joy, I'd like to take that farther. We haven't really gotten together to collaborate on too many songs. I wrote and recorded a new song that I want to have on the next record called This I Love. So there was also an interview done with one of the producers on Chinese Democracy. So Dave Dominguez, who worked on Chinese Democracy in the late 90s, also talked about the song, and here's what he had to say. He said, This I Love is actually an old GNR song that the original GNR wrote and recorded for the Illusions Records. I like the song a lot. It took a couple of weeks to find all the tapes because they finished recording Use Your Illusions on the road, and one tape was in Paris, another in London, and another in Sydney, I believe. Now, I think he's mistaken talking about how it was recorded for the Illusions Records. So if you look at Guns N' Roses' tour itinerary from the Illusions Records, or for the Illusion Tour, they played Paris in 1992 and 1993, they played London in 91 and 92, and they played Sydney in early 93. So a lot of these dates are after the Illusions Records came out. A lot of people speculate that the song is actually written about Stephanie Seymour and Axl's breakup with her. And even Axl, during a 2010 concert in Paris, talked about how This I Love is the only Guns N' Roses song that was ever written in France. So here's the audio from the clip of him talking about the song.
We played another city in France the other night, and it hit me during the first verse of the song that, wait a minute, I wrote this song in France.
So my personal belief is that This I Love was either written in Paris in 1992 or in 1993, just towards the end of the Use Your Illusion tour. So if you guys have read the book Watch You Bleed, there's a passage in there talking about Guns N' Roses' 1992 Paris show and what was going on around that time. So I'll just read a passage from it, guys. So this starts out in May of 1992. It says, 2 nights later, on May 29th, the Guns played for almost 3 hours in Cologne, inserting new songs Perfect Crime and So Fine into their set list. After that, the band got a few days off before the final German show in Hanover. Everyone got some rest except Axl Rose, who was stewing in his own private hell. He hadn't slept in 3 days and was unable to turn off his stage adrenaline to relax. Axl spent hours on the phone with Stephanie Seymour and became agitated because she had reported that Warren Beatty had been calling her. There was also some friction within Guns over Axl's refusal to attend soundchecks where Doug Goldstein often stood in for the singer. Axl's excuse was that his throat was fragile and that he had to protect his vocal cords. Slash was also beginning to worry about the extravagant expenses the band was running up as Doug Goldstein signed off on Axl's every wish and whim. Slash had heard that the horror stories of big rock bands finishing huge tours that didn't make any real money in the end, and he didn't want that to happen to the band. So Axl Rose, still sleepless and totally exhausted, snapped in Hanover. The band made it on stage on time to general astonishment and roared into the first 4 songs. Then Axl sat down on the drum riser and just stared sullenly at 60,000 bolsterous rock fans. The other Guns looked at each other nervously. Axl wouldn't even say what was wrong. He didn't say a word. The stage monitors and Axl's teleprompter were rechecked and found to be working. Excruciating minutes went by, nothing. Then Axl got up, walked to the front of the stage, and slipped down into the security pit. He looked hard at some of the kids up front, then got back on stage and sat down. Eventually, he restarted the show, but now he was in a black mood. He scolded the crowd for not singing loud enough on Heaven's Door. Then he introduced Sweet Child as a song about getting effed in the ass with a Coke bottle. He used the song's long scream and coda to deliver chilling howls of human agony and invisible torments that ripped at his psyche. Then he threw down the microphone and walked off. There was no encore that night, and Axl left for the next gig in Paris ahead of the band. So some of the book is wrong. The actual whole concert from Hanover is available on YouTube to watch. They actually did perform Paradise City, and Axl didn't storm off stage, but you can watch the concert and you can tell that he's pissed off because he's literally standing by the drum riser, or sitting by the drum riser, for a good chunk of the concert. So I've linked to it down below if you guys want to go check it out. But I personally believe that because of the events going on around Axl, maybe in '92 he wrote the song, and they were in Paris around that time too. But it's also possible they could have written it in 1993 because the interview was done in '93 with Axl, where he referenced the song as well. And it's possible that maybe he did write it in 1993, and being in Paris in 1993 reminded him of everything he was dealing with in Paris the year before, because as you guys remember, on the pay-per-view special that Guns did in Paris, Axl personally called out Warren Beatty and dedicated Double Talk and Jive to him. So here's the clip of him dedicating Double Talk and Jive to Warren Beatty.
I'd like to dedicate this next song to a man who likes to play games. To a man that lives his life playing games, premeditated games. A man who's so empty that that's all he can do is play fucking games. A man who's a parasite. A man who lives his life on sucking off other people's life force and their energy. An old man who likes to live vicariously through young people and suck up all their life because he has none of his own. I'd like to dedicate this song to a cheap punk named Warren Beatty. A man who has a family and a baby, but he's got to spend his time fucking around with other people because he doesn't know what to do with his own life. A man who uses the media and uses everybody to fulfill his fucking parasitic needs. Well, listen, home fuck. If you think Madonna kicked your ass, I'm betting my money on a net, you stupid fucking asshole. This is a song called Double Talking Jive, motherfucker.
So it's possible that Slash may have known about the song too, or at least heard parts of the song before he left Guns N' Roses. So he did an interview in 1995 promoting Slash's Snake Pit, and he was doing an interview with Canadian radio. And he was talking about he basically didn't want to do any kind of Stephanie Seymour ballads on the next Guns record. So he said, because he's not doing. At one point he said he was going to do a solo project referring to Axl. Then he decided a solo project he could do with Guns, which I was like, after doing all those videos and this and that and the other, I was like, no, I don't want to get involved in any kind of Stephanie Seymour ballads or any of that shit. So Rolling Stone magazine did a piece on Axl back in 2000, talking about what Axl was up to during his wilderness years from like 1994 to 2000, where he wasn't really in the spotlight. And they interviewed a frequent visitor to the studio when he was doing Chinese Democracy. And basically they said when Stephanie Seymour's birthday came around, which was July 23rd, Axl seemed to shut down for weeks. A lot of the record is about Stephanie. She was his perfect woman, or at least the image of what she should be. So in the same year, Axl actually did an interview with Rolling Stone magazine. So he talked about what the theme of the next album would be, referring to Chinese Democracy. Having stayed publicly silent for so long, Rose appears to view the album as a final offering up of his side of all the myriad battles, notably with his estranged bandmates, and even more painful, with his one-time fiancée supermodel Stephanie Seymour, with whom he had an ugly split. He speaks of his desire for Seymour's son, Dylan, to someday be able to come across the new record. I hope he'll hear it when he grows up, if he ever wants to know the story, to hear the truth. Rose says a little quietly, rather than simply create a work that's negative and vengeful, though, Rose seems anxious to make something positive. Something you guys may not know is that This I Love was intended to appear on a movie soundtrack. So there was a website called SP1at. They did an interview with Dave Dominguez, who was a producer on Chinese Democracy in the late 90s. And he alerted the news outlet to the connection between the film What Dreams May Come, starring Robin Williams, and Axl Rose. So he basically told the outlet that the song was intended for some Robin Williams film, and the SP1at reporter ended up following up soon after the interview. So the reporter contacted Don Solar, who was the music supervisor for the film What Dreams May Come. So speaking exclusively to SP1at on the subject, Don Solar said, "Oh boy, that was a long time ago," and admitted she was unable to recollect how the opportunity to work with Axl Rose came along in the first place. She did assure the news outlet that Axl was really into the film and even suggested that he wrote the song for it. However, SP1net does not believe this to be the case, as the song was originally mentioned in 1993 in the previous interviews I cited by Axl himself, and when he described This I Love as the heaviest thing he's ever done. So Axl also talked in 2008 about the song shortly after Chinese Democracy came out, so he explained how he was probably most proud of that song. So he said, what he was most proud of, he said, right now, a lot on Chinese Democracy. For me, musically, it would have been the orchestral arrangement on the bridge of This I Love. He also talked about making Chinese Democracy in another interview, saying, I didn't want to do This I Love in any way, shape, or form, and Robin and Karam insisted gaining Tommy as well as the others' support, so it seems like Axl was a bit hesitant to record the song. He also said in another interview around the time that This I Love is still the heaviest thing I've written and ultimately a great healing experience to compose something you have no real idea you're capable of, such as the bridge. So Axl said it's a lot more intricate than I think most realize, yet as the guitar and vocals are placed as they should be so dominant. The main string melody in that section I had originally written to a hip-hop loop as well. Robin Finck was interviewed in 2014 and he talked about playing on the song. So he said, when I knew I was going to go in and record one of the lead parts on This I Love, I would listen a few times without playing. I would listen to the track without playing guitar and just try to kind of hear what comes natural as far as starting low or starting high or where to begin and where to end. I've always liked guitar players that play in phrases, maybe like a horn player who needs to take a breath. I don't think about it. I'm thinking about it more now because you've started to ask me more than I've ever thought about it. There wasn't a lot of thinking going on, to be honest. So DJ Ashba has also talked a bit about the song. So in 2011 with Classic Rock Magazine, he said, talking about his favorite song of Chinese Democracy, he said, probably This I Love is one that really hooked me because it's just a great song. Lyrically and musically, it goes through a roller coaster of emotions. It's very heartfelt, you can tell. And in 2012, he told Total Guitar, I really like and at first hated This I Love. At first, I couldn't get my head around the solo, so I had to tweak it out and just make it a little more mine. I am really bad at mocking other guitar players. He also said, I've never really been good at learning cover songs. It's just never been my thing, and it was hard to wrap my head around Robin's style. That one was way harder than a Slash solo, in my opinion. So This I Love has been a pretty big staple of Guns N' Roses setlist over the years they've played concerts since Chinese Democracy came out. So the song was played for the first time live on December 11th, 2009 in Taiwan. And since July of this year, it's been played almost 300 times. So let's look at where the song ranks on the best worst Guns N' Roses song list. So Spin.com ranked it as the 4th or 5th worst Guns N' Roses song at number 76. And you know, that seems to be the theme even with the other lists I'm going to talk about. So Medium.com ranked it as number 66. So they thought the song was a bit better, but overall it's not in the top 20, 30, 40, or even 50 Guns N' Roses songs. So that does it for this episode of Guns N' Roses True Story. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Let me know what your thoughts are on the song. Comment down below and let me know. And as always, guys, make sure you hit the like button if you enjoyed the contents of this video, and be sure to subscribe if you love Guns N' Roses as much as I do. And be sure to follow me on Facebook and Twitter. And you guys can also support my channel on Patreon as well. The links to all that good stuff is down below in the description box. Take care.